clean your nose. Sorry. We'll come to you eventually. So because
I
we are
won't be in
behind
the studio then. I'll be coughing outside.
because we are behind schedule, all right? Let's just tell people how we can be a part of the show and go straight into the stories.
All right, WhatsApp number 0809 4440981. You can tweet at smooth981. The hashtag is lockerroom981. And of course, we're streaming live on YouTube as well. Catch the live stream, post a comment at smooth981.
So first story, we start with Nigeria. What are they calling it now? The Amapiano Derby. Let's talk about that.
So Hugo Broos, South Africa coach, says he will approach the semi-final match against Nigeria differently from Bafana style in their quarterfinal game against Cape Verde on Saturday.
Oh yeah, and he should, because it's a tricky one. And the thing about Nigeria is Nigeria has been hard to beat. Beyond, I mean, they create a lot of chances, they don't score enough. But what has been hard for people is breaking that defense. You know, Nigeria has considered that one goal, and that has been the problem for people. Nigeria's defense is so strong. So if South Africa are going to be the ones to break Nigeria down, they're going to approach the game a little differently, because even they have a very quite vulnerable defense, you know, because they attack most in general, and sometimes they leave their defense a little vulnerable. And if you're playing against a Victor Osimhen who has had an extra day of rest, you know, you're playing against an Ademola Lookman, you are playing against a Moses Simon, you want to approach the game differently. But first of all, huge congratulations to South Africa. I would say this though, South Africa are really here because Cape Verde were horrible. Several times they had good looks in the South African defense to get goals, they didn't. And then it got to the penalty shootout. The penalty shootout is one of the most embarrassing penalty shootouts I've seen in my life. How can a goalkeeper guess where every single player was going to put his ball?
1, 2, 3.
Was he superhuman or what? Because that was incredible.
You know, before he went on for the penalties, I heard him asking, who do I dive to the left for? And they told him, oh, so they had done, the backroom staff had done their homework. They knew where everybody was going to kick their wall. They told him, okay, these ones go left, these ones go right. Because I remember him asking, who else is going left? Who else is going to dive, is going to go left? And then one of the assistant referees now said, I think it was 6 or something like that. He was telling him the number of the player. So they had done their homework very well. They told him, this guy went, and like clockwork, the first 3 penalty takers kicked the ball to the right, first of all. He saved all those ones. The 4th penalty taker kicked the ball to the left. He guessed right. Unfortunately, the penalty was a well-taken one, so he beat him. The 5th one kicked left, and he went left. He knew where his homework was complete on the spot. I think sometimes it's not just even about getting right. If your penalty is good, like put it in the roof. Which one are you putting it at goalkeeper's height? So anyway, it was, I would say this, at the end of the day, the Cape Verde players made the South African goalkeeper look fantastic. Not to take anything from him, but some of those penalties, even I would save it.
Okay, till we put you in front of goal, Tega. All right, Tyson Fury has been forced to postpone his unification fight with Alexander Usyk after the British heavyweight suffered a free cut above his eye during a sparring session in Riyadh. This is what Queensberry Promotions announced.
All right, so these guys are supposed to fight on the 17th of February. But because of that cut above the eye now, they've postponed the fight. But here it's beginning to look like Tyson Fury does not like to fight the fight that people want to see. Remember when himself and Anthony Joshua were supposed to fight, when Anthony Joshua was still Anthony Joshua? Remember that they got to the table, they had the agreement, then something, somebody called it off. Anthony Joshua said it's Tyson Fury's people. Tyson Fury says it's Anthony Joshua people. Till today, no fly was on the wall to tell us what really happened. And now, everybody's been waiting for this Usyk fight because it's a heavyweight holder against one of the allegedly best boxers of the era. And now you're telling us you have a cut above your eye. And put plaster now. Come.
Because you might get a cut after the fight, won't you?
You know, but of course he can't do that. But yeah, so now they postponed the fight again, and the question is why are we always pushing fights that we want to see when it involves you? You know, those questions will arise. But let's wait to see how this what the next date is or how this pans out. But it's tricky. Once they set a date and they have to move that one, they have to start almost all over again. You can't just fix a new date. It's not like a missed EPL match for a snowstorm. Everything now has to start all over again. So it's really tricky. Really, really tricky.
Well, since you have mentioned EPL at this point, let's just go ahead and see how the Elephant is faring after the day after, as we can talk about Mikel Arteta has hailed ruthless Arsenal's crucial 3-1 win against Premier League leaders Liverpool on Sunday with the help of Gunners boost their title hopes.
Yeah, so Arsenal won at the Emirates on Sunday against Liverpool by 3-1 and closed the gap at the top of the table to just 2 points. So Liverpool are still top, but the Elephant has started to climb back up again. But what was more shocking about Liverpool was the performance. All 4 goals were scored by Arsenal players. So Liverpool came to Emirates. They didn't score any goal. They didn't go away with any points. Arsenal kind of dominated this one. And if you look at the recent form of Liverpool, it's almost questionable that they were not able to get the ball in the back of the net. You know, 1 or 2 moments where you say, oh, you saw Liverpool brilliance, you know, during the build-up of the play. But again, it wasn't the same sharpness. The very first opportunity came to Arsenal. The very first goal came to Arsenal. And it was not just that they scored the goals. It was the way that the goalkeeper and the defense looked like they are just meeting each other for the first time. You know, the first goal was horrible. Defender took out goalkeeper took out defender. Saka was just like, thank you very much for the ball, and he put it in the back of the net. Even the third goal was also, you know, another, you could say, goalkeeper error. So you look at the entire performance, it was shoddy, it was shabby by the Liverpool players. Not a very good performance. I always come to watch an Arsenal-Liverpool game to see top-notch football, you know. When you remember all the Arsenal-Liverpool games, even the ones where one team is beaten, they first start off with some brilliant football. Liverpool were just not at the races from the blast of the whistle. All right, so fantastic game by the Gunners at the Emirates. It was a dominant performance, and they have now got themselves back into the title race.
You know what, Tega, you know, there's this thing, the way you set up the games last on Friday in the locker room was how you summed up the way attackers do this for Nigeria and in other clubs. You talked about penetrative passes. You created...
I did not say it. I was quoting my mentor, Daniel Avokachi. I was quoting my mentor. All right. So but want to give some people an opportunity. All right. When we come back from the break, I think we should open the phone lines and hear from the listeners. How did you see the Gunners' performance against Liverpool? And with that performance, can you now firmly say that Arsenal could win the title this season? We will talk about that when we come back from the break. I'm so sorry, guys. I've lost my voice.
Tega, I was just laughing after the games. I just, how do you say so? I said, what does Daniel Amokachi really do, really? I don't want to.
He's a color commentator. He's adding color.
Y'all leave my bull alone.
I'm telling you, I love him. I don't know what people are talking about.
The players will be playing sexy penetrating passes.
Where was Daniel's head? That's what I was thinking of.
He was thinking football. It's the rest of you that are carnally minded.
He said sexy penetration. Oh my God.
Yes, his exact word.
He views football like something that can give an orgasm, you know.
Which is what I was saying. That's how he views football. The rest of you need to get your mind out of the gutter.
Okay, I've heard you.
All right.
So weird how some words have forever had a wrong
Yeah,
idea. So
even,
what you hear penetrative, it's something else.
You
yeah,
guys
but even when you go, even when you're doing training, you know, they tell you to try and avoid certain words, especially together.
okay.
You're not using sexy and penetration at the same
Penetrative.
time.
Like where else are we
Amokachi
supposed
not
to go?
saying. Amokachi Chai is expressing himself.
So even in training, they will tell you to try to avoid some words
Yeah.
because those words can be misinterpreted.
Yes.
The big
So when
bull.
we come back, we'll just open the phone lines here.
Okay.
We'll come
All
up with
right.
some messages and open the phone lines. No, come open the phone lines and take messages.
What did Tega say? Oh, okay.
Yes, you're still inside the locker room on Smooth 98.1. It's Tega, Omas, and Zibby. And guess what? We're opening the phone lines. Yes, we are. The number is 0144899981. So give us a ring. Tega?
I remember what we are discussing. Arsenal's performance against Liverpool yesterday. Has it renewed your hope that they can win the Premier League this season? All right, this season. All right, the numbers to call again are
0144899981.
But before we do that, let's take a few messages and then we can take your calls. How's it coming?
Well, let's pick it up from Tayo's end now. It goes Super Eagles direction. So what you say? Which name back?
Let's start from Super Eagles. Yeah.
Super Eagles lifted the Angolan Antelope away from the next round, and now it's time for Amapiano Derby, and Tyler won at the Grammys yesterday. I'm so touched that Cape Verde didn't qualify for the next round. South Africa, what did you do? Myself, and it dragged me into it. Now gave to go there and console them. Then what goes on, CAF should have declared them host of next AFCON. Otherwise, I will have to watch it from there if they don't qualify.
All right, let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. Name, location, and go right ahead, please. Name and location and go ahead. All right, Zikolo, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Tega. Good morning, everyone. So, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I do not think it has renewed any hope of winning the EPL. My reason is because I think Arsenal have gotten a proper striker in January. I do not think there is any team who has won the EPL in the last decade without a proper striker. Even later that came to Gabi, they had I forgot the guy's name now. So Arsenal would not win the EPL, but it's obvious even from the first leg of the game that Arsenal were a better team. The only difference in that match in the first leg was Salah. And thankfully Salah was not available yesterday. And that's what made the huge difference. So it shows that perhaps Arsenal has a proper team, has a better team than when compared to Liverpool. For Liverpool players have all the experience and perhaps the right mentality, perhaps the right player at the key place where Arsenal do not. So thank you everyone.
All right, thank you,
All right,
Zikolo.
thank you.
We're going back to the phone lines. Good morning. Go ahead, name, location.
I'm Mustaf calling from Papa. I'm a City fan. City the best team in the world. Good news for us. Arsenal did us a favor. We are coming back 2 games in and City for the title. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see Liverpool and Arsenal straight. It's our veterans who are coming for what belongs to us. And for Super Eagles, they need to respond. Tega has gotten the Grammy. We need to burn to South Africa out of this tournament. But what's it called? Super Eagles must not bottle it like Arsenal. They need to win this AFCON with them all the best because of the budget.
All right, thank you for that. 0144899981. We're going on to read some of the messages from the live stream.
Then comes Ernest Okenwa saying Arsenal versus Liverpool was like the gods of banter was in our favor, delivering regular customer Chelsea for lunch and Liverpool for dinner. Thank you. Arsenal are good contenders for the league. Abiodun Obisheson comes on. Wow. Arsenal is not winning nada. Top 4, yes, but no EPL. They don't have the staying power and winning mentality. End of. That's it.
Why? On that note, we've heard your thoughts. Despite the win yesterday, they're still not your favorites to win. All right, let's go to the next story and we'll take more messages as we go.
Okay, Marcus Llorente headed home in the 93rd minute to snatch Atletico Madrid a 1-1 draw at La Liga leaders and bitter rivals Real Madrid on Sunday.
I'm saying this again. If Carlo Ancelotti should see Atletico Madrid one more time, he will call police because he has struggled against this team. By the time both teams are done, they are battered physically, emotionally, and if it's your team that lost, then there'll be a problem. But in this match, it was. I would say this. You remember that Ancelotti had won, and then in the Super Cup, and then Atletico Madrid won in the Copa del Rey. And that's I'm talking about just the last three fixtures, and then they met again this time in the league, and it looked like Real Madrid was going to win. And I do think that Real Madrid had a stonewall penalty that wasn't given. But again, when it comes to derby football and rivalry, there are some things that I don't know. It's an unwritten rule, but referees don't tend to give those penalties. But I think that Jude Bellingham was definitely fouled in the 18-yard box, and Real Madrid should have gotten a penalty. And if they did, maybe the game would have been 2-0, and it would have gone completely away from Atletico Madrid. But with that 1-0 score line, there was always going to be an opportunity that an Atletico Madrid could created a few chances, but just looked a bit hapless in front of goal, could get one back. And get one back they did. Real Madrid had been brilliant, stopping everything that came in and around their 18-yard box. Lumin in goal had been fantastic. And I do think that if Thibaut Courtois comes back next season, somebody should get Lumin on a loan because he's a fantastic goalkeeper and he doesn't deserve to sit on the bench. And he'd been fantastic. Then the last minute, maybe they thought the match was almost over. 92nd minute in the game, they considered a very cheap goal to Llorente. So it was a brilliant performance by both teams, one or two controversial calls here or there, but all in all, that's exactly how a derby should look like. And both teams shared the spoils. But what that means is that Real Madrid couldn't really take advantage of the points dropped by Girona the day before to even extend the gap further at the top. So we go again next week, see how it goes.
So from Spain, we make a quick sprint again back to England, where Mauricio Pochettino apologized to the Chelsea support for not matching the history of the club after a 4-2 home loss to Wolves on Sunday, dropped the Blues into the bottom half of the Premier League table.
Yeah, but finally they've moved. I've been saying it, you move from 10th, move back, move forward, just make a movement. Do you understand? And this time they now move backwards. Zibby. But Pochettino has apologized. I think they started the match as usual, looking brilliant, playing a few 1 or 2 passes here, Kopamana getting the early goal. But after that, it was like Wolverhampton Wanderers got angry that Chelsea had the effrontery to score against them at Stamford Bridge. And they came back. I think Chelsea was already beaten black and blue before they even managed to salvage another goal that made the scoreline look a little more decent. But it was not a brilliant performance. And for when you think about Chelsea, every time it looks like they are sorted, they always just come back with the wrong results. And I hate to say this, but we cannot keep firing coaches. Pochettino is not the problem. Sorry, he's not the only problem. Let me qualify that. Starting from the policies to the transfers, those are the questions because they are buying players, but they are not really building a team, if I'm making sense. And so those are the things that they need to look at when it comes to where they go from here. But yeah, it was not a beautiful sight to see when Wolves came back and started beating Chelsea and now drops them into the second half of the table. It doesn't look like there's hope for them. With Manchester United, even with all their problems, they are going higher. They won yesterday again. They are back in and around top 6. They have one bad result. They have several good results. And they have another bad result to remind them that they have still not come out of it. Then they have a few good results. With Chelsea, it's like, regardless of whether they play beautiful football, sexy penetrative passes, whether they hold a low block, anything that they do, they just struggle to win matches, and that's a huge problem for the Blues. All right.
Okay, let's go on to Inter. Inter Milan took firm control of the Serie A title race by winning Sunday's highly anticipated clash with Juventus 1-0, moving 4 points clear of their closest rivals for the Scudetto.
All right, and Juventus were the ones who thought 2 weeks ago that they could create a 4-point gap. Unfortunately, they didn't, and Inter Milan are back and back in this fully. If you watch yesterday's match, you say, oh, definitely, I can believe that these are the two best teams in the Italian Serie A. Both of them going for it. Inter Milan, the more purposeful and the more decisive, created ample opportunities that could have even stretched that lead beyond what Juventus would have gotten. And Juventus also, especially on the break, catching Inter Milan once or twice off guard. Unfortunately, they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But what Inter Milan is doing is that every game they go, they're trying to get points out of it, because this Scudetto, they want it back. Every player puts in the best of work. I think for me yesterday, Lilian Thuram worked harder than everybody else. On the Juventus side, I would say they shouldn't be disheartened, but when you are beaten by the team that is at the top of the table, and the gap has been extended, it can be heartbreaking. But they're not doing anything wrong. They just didn't get the results yesterday. They were beaten by the more decisive team, is what I'd say. Because Inter Milan may have scored, but they did give Juventus opportunities to get back in the game. Juventus just didn't take it. So, tough pill to swallow, but yeah, Inter Milan look like they're holding on to this Scudetto very tight.
So let's sprint away from Italy and go over to Ivory Coast, where the Gladiators are in. But let's see how the host is faring. Host Ivory Coast narrowly avoided a humiliating African Cup of Nations group stage exit before two resilient performances in the knockout rounds to book a semi-final berth. But no, they must play much better if they are to reach the final at all.
They cannot play any better. They are playing their best, and which is why it is as ugly as it is, or some people say it is as lucky as it is. But I did see that game against Mali, and I always thought, because Mali are perennial, the perennial dark horses, they always come into the tournament looking like this could be the tournament they will do something, and they never do. And the problem with Mali is simply a lack of character, which is why I knew that Cote d'Ivoire had the chance to extend the match at least into extra time, even with one man down that they got in the first half, because Mali does not have the character. Even when they had brilliant players like Seydou Keita and Freddie Kanouté, they still didn't break the duck. You see, now when they have, average Sissokos that you expect that they're going to, pull the magic, you can tell when a team is going to pull off something. The team has some character. Mali doesn't. They just think that if we play our football right, we'll get it right. But when it comes to tournament football, it's not just about tactics. There's a mindset to it, so that you can play something as ugly as what Ivory Coast is playing and still get to the semi-final.
Wow.
And that's what's happening. Ivory Coast has scraped their way to the semi-final. And should they scrape their way to the final, I don't expect them to do that, because I expect DR Congo to be wary and do the job. DR Congo has been one of the best teams at this tournament, well structured, very good defensively, very fluid midfield, and they score goals. So I expect them that to beat Cote d'Ivoire. But should Cote d'Ivoire get to the final, it will be tough for any team that is meeting them at that final, because they are not even playing football that you can do tactics against. Do you understand? When people are playing football, how do we call it in the streets? Anywhere belly face. They don't have tactics that you can read and say, okay, this is how we counter them. Because they're not playing football that has sense. It's haram football, but they're getting results.
Tega on the loose, man.
And so at the end of the day, it's going to be tough for any team that faces Cote d'Ivoire, because they're using much more than football to get to the final.
Tega, would you like to just throw these guys under the bus, Man United and Eric Ten Hag, at this time?
I've already touched on them, so let's just take some messages, because we are literally out of time.
And we have a lot coming through. AY from Aniru says the 10th have dropped down to the 11th. Stamford Bridge has completely crumbled. Mayowa says, wonderful weekend of football. Super Eagles turning up. Madrid derby. Arsenal destroying Liverpool. Jamie Carragher being salty and becoming a celebration police and letting his bias shine through. Hamilton's proposed move to Ferrari. Deji says, Arsenal needs a striker with massive bite like Dyer's. We were lucky anyways. The elephant is on the tree sipping coconut juice. All right. Ibukun says, Tega, you said certain words should not be used together so they're not misinterpreted. What you just said, renewed hope in relation to Arsenal. Lol. Let's see. Ifedayo says, as an Arsenal fan, I'm not expecting too much from Arsenal to win the league because they are prone not to win. Emeka Onelum says, my Arsenal hope of winning the league isn't there. Manchester City must be licking their lips after seeing Arsenal beat Liverpool yesterday. If City wins their outstanding 2 games, they'll be back on top with De Bruyne and Haaland back from injury. It's going to be a problem. And let's go on to our live stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got Ibukun there to just.
Okay, Ibukun says, Tega, celebrate Man U now. We won 3-0. Why are you just giving us side comments like straight bullets?
See why I dragged that there.
Sorry, I see you feeling blue. All right, that's all the time we have. Sorry we can't read all your messages, but thanks for listening and thanks for sending them through. Tega?
Should we
all right,
now?
so thank you for sending your messages and for listening today. I'm just going to be whistling, London Bridge has fallen down.
Tega, I will see you when I see you. That's it for the locker room. Stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Break.